There's a ton of research. Pew Research has done a ton of research out there that shows that Twitter is disproportionately of the left, highly progressive. So the majority of views, 90% of the views of the tweets come from 5% of the users, and that 5% disproportionately is of the left. And corporate America pays attention to that, and clearly the federal government does too, which is why you've got a bunch of crazy people who represented a minority of the country who were able to drive the conversation because corporations pay attention. And frankly, let's be honest here, a bunch of corporations have hired a bunch of jobless people who got women and gender studies degrees in college to become the head of human resources. And in so doing, they are already malcontented souls because only someone who wants to learn how to be a professional victim gets one of those women and gender studies, black studies, Asian American studies, queer theory studies degrees. People who want real jobs, they either go to medical school or, maybe law school, arguably engineering school. They do something. They don't get a victimology degree. But when you get a victimology degree, you become the head of HR. You are default crazy to begin with, more likely than not when you do so. And so then you buy into the crazy on Twitter. And then in the Federal Reserve context and in academia, you produce lists that declare you're no longer allowed to use the word picnic because, and I quote, the term picnic is often associated with lynchings of black people in the United States, during which white spectators were said to have watched while eating, referring to them as picnics, or other terms involving racial slurs against black people. And no longer say trigger warning, say a content note, because the word trigger has connotations to guns, and that is upsetting to some people. This stuff didn't happen. We had our problems before Twitter. But if you missed my explanation, let me explain to you what Twitter actually is. Twitter is, you remember the story from Mark 5, you have the possessed men and the legion of demons who are possessed. They know they're going to get cast out. They tell the Lord Jesus, please cast us into this herd of pigs. And so Jesus, even compassionate to the demons, casts them into the pigs who run down into the lake and drown. Well, when they get back to hell, they got to come up with something. And they have this crazy idea. They call it Twitter, where they can harness the crazy people across the internet and steer the mob and direct the conversation of madness across the 21st century. That's exactly what Twitter is, conjured up from the bowels of hell. Have you seen Jack Dorsey? Pretty sure he comes from there. Dude is off the rocker. And the federal government and corporate America have embraced the crazy that is on social media. It steers conversations, and we wind up with nonsense like this. And performative dance in the rotunda of the National Archives to combat the structural racism that is the display of our founding fathers. No country on planet Earth except our own views our founders in a pejorative light or demands that we do so as a real depiction of history. No. George Washington and Thomas Jefferson and James Madison and John Adams and the like and Ben Franklin, they were deeply flawed individuals in some cases, but they were all great men, greater than those who would have us condemn them for their sins while ignoring the sins of those who would have us condemn them.